Hello, homeschoolers! Welcome to Land of Kakiak. My name is Laurel. Today, I've got two things to do. I thought I would review. William completed an entire unofficial RC notebook level 3. So I'm going to kind of look through and show you kind of the stuff we got done. And then I thought I would also try to make a game plan. I printed out a new one. And I thought I'd make a game plan for anything I want to, do differently or continue on into his next notebook. Same level, same pages. Okay, so I'll put the blank one to the side for a second. And let's just take a look at what he's done over the last, I believe this was 10 weeks worth. I should date this. I should say, okay, so this one was from, looks like we started on 2/12. And today was his last day, which is 6/7. If you're familiar with my channel, you're probably familiar with what the unofficial RC notebooks are. I am bridging, if you're not though, I am bridging my kids into trying to get closer and closer to the RC, the Robinson curriculum, kind of like pure methodology. It's just such an independent education style. I felt there were some things we needed to lay down first. And so that's what I've been doing. So anyways, this is the level 3. I just wrote down, I was recording, I think last time I set this up. So for reading, he's been working in the revised McGuffey Reader, the 3rd one. For social studies and lit, he read Heidi. We considered, that's from the RC list. And then for math, he's been working in Right Start level C. This will cover lessons 18 to 61 he did in here. For spelling, he's been doing the McGuffey spelling level 3. For grammar, he's been working gentle grammar. He finished off level 1 and got into level 2. And then for science, he has read The Tale of Reddy Woodpecker, The Adventures of Danny Meadow Mouse. And I guess this is more just like literature, is the Bears of Blue Valley. I would say literature, right? Maybe even social studies kind of combined there. This one is not on the RC list. I don't think these ones are either, but similar books are. So we really started on 2/12. So what I was starting to do in our reading lessons, so he's reading through the McGuffey lessons. Looks like he's on lesson 20. Is I just started pulling out any affixes that I saw in the vocabulary words from the reading lessons. So these were there was only 5 words, vocabulary words for this particular lesson, but I saw the suffixes e and ly, right? They just stood out to me. I just had us make little, squares for them where we wrote down, the suffix and their meaning. That's how I started doing it. And we started making our own little flashcards as we went. I just had him copy his words down, and then I said definition talk, like we just talked about it, like what the definitions were. And then he read me the lesson, right? And then for reading illustration, I just had him draw a picture, something from the reading for that day. Copy work and grammar, he's just working through gentle grammar. Like I said this before, we just use the gentle grammar workbooks like textbooks, but they just do the work in here and I don't have to keep buying them. I mean, you can just print, they are printable as well, but I bought I wanted the bound ones. They've been holding up very nicely. And then this is when he was reading from Heidi in the Easy Peasy Reader. And so I do use the Easy Peasy Reader has like reading, she has these little sections where she'll either like give like helpful information about what they're going to read, like beforehand, like she might define a word or like just give some little brief like teaching. I actually love it. And then like most of them have like a question, some comprehension questions to answer. I was having him do first then last at first, like he was reading Heidi from the Easy Peasy Reader, and I was kind of having him like first this is what happened, then this, and lastly this. But I think I did eventually like just switch over to having him just answer the questions that the Easy Peasy Reader already had in them. And then same with we were doing our McGuffey spelling, and we were just doing our spelling work in the notebook instead of in the like workbook. So what started to change over time was mostly the McGuffey Reader stuff. I started seeing me playing around. I'm saying, okay, now I'm going to do dictation. I'm going to dictate the suffix and the meaning and have him copy them down. Again, dictation, I dictated the words. We started talking about the part of speech. I don't know where it looks like I typed this up. Stayed. Oh yeah, because I was like, why is it stayed S-T-A-I-D instead of stayed S-T-A-Y-E-D? So we just took that moment to like look that up. So stayed is the simplest past tense of the verb stay, whereas stayed, S-T-A-I-D, is an adjective that refers to someone trustworthy and serious. And then there's some examples. I stayed at my granny's last week versus I wouldn't invite such staid friends to a party. Anyways, we just took that moment to learn something new. So that was actually like something I'd never thought of before. Okay, grammar. So yeah, you see here I started changing over to, I was like writing out the questions for him. Of course, we're just doing our spelling, math. So eventually what started happening with us in our McGuffey reader is that I just started developing our own little like personalized routine to go along with these pages. And so I actually just wrote it out on one of my little reading word bookmarks, and I just kept it in the reader. And I would use this when I would go to prep his pages for the week, and I would write just what instructions that I wanted him, because this was like changing. There was like a weekly pattern to each lesson. We're doing one lesson a week. Things were just slowly, coming together. Here's one of the days that we code all of our words, all of our spelling words with their spelling patterns or spelling rules. We just make a key. We see which ones we use our flashcards to go review every single spelling rule and then that we have, and then the ones that we see that are present, we just write it down and give it a color, and then we just start coding. I think this is from the very end of Gentle Grammar Lesson 1. I usually am not up for writing in his notebook for him and stuff like that, but just because it wanted him to write a story, and I was like, I kind of felt like it was a leap for him, like that was more of an ask, and it would have taken a really long time for him to write this much. So I just sat down with him and we did it together, and I basically wrote down what he said, but I definitely gave some help. We talked about, well, every sentence has to be a complete sentence if you're writing a story and stuff like that. So I definitely helped, and this is his little story called Danny and the Beast. But that was that was different than usual. Yeah, we were really working on, so the gentle grammar, we practiced the grammar, like it's being taught, right? And then I like these comprehension questions for testing what he can do on his own without prompts and without fill-ins and without copy these lines, just change this, right? With just being like, you just write a sentence that answers the question. This lesson they had hummingbirds in it, so we looked up a picture of the kind of hummingbirds that they were talking about. So I was just slowly adding on more and more affixes, and then we started underlining the words from the list that had them in there. We started talking about if it's Old English or if it's Latin. I wasn't doing it yet, but eventually I get to where every day he is reviewing his right pile, wrong pile, his flashcards, and he's recording right and wrong. So yeah, when I started getting into this purple highlighter, I'm starting to get into my more regular, that personalized reading lesson routine for him. We're kind of getting more into, this was different. This was from, I think, lesson 1 as well, but they actually had him do some outlining, like a beginning, middle, and end of a story. And then the next day, like try to write a little story. Like this was his rough draft, and this was, I gave him his corrections, and then he rewrote it. So I really appreciate that he's to the point where he can do his gentle grammar pretty much completely on his own now, and I don't have to like, he can read his instructions and just do the work now. It looks like we ran out of time this day. So we start doing things like dictate the affix. It's a test day. We dictate the affix, and they're supposed to fill in the rest. He's supposed to fill in the meaning and the origin. I dictated the words to him here. An oral response for meaning. So that I say, now tell me what it means. And I'm just testing to see if he has an understanding, because this would be a test day. This would be the last day of the lesson, right? This is like a Friday or something. And I'm seeing if he's like actually learned what these words mean by studying them all week. We were studying especially the Rule 24, the wise exchange rule. If we got into where we are adding some suffixes to words, like when do you need to exchange a Y for an I, right? So we're just studying that a little bit there because that started coming up. We started playing our spelling races game also in this level. Here's my little fill-in summary that he does, my book summary paragraph template for when he finished reading Carnival at Candlelight. So that's something I sometimes have them do when they're done with the book. Of course, like everything's not always like perfect, but even looking through here, I'm like, oh, I see some mistakes that I didn't catch. So I have this as copy work or grammar. I mean, I could have him just do copy work from the reader, and we could study the grammar that was within the copy work, you know, or something if we wanted to. But we did that all of second grade. So for third grade, I wanted to like do gentle grammar and have a specific grammar focus, that everything was designed around teaching the grammar. Right, that's something that writing does too, is it helps me identify spelling, weaknesses too. He's starting to learn editing marks, right? In my my little bookmark, my language art bookmarks, one of the bookmarks is a little editing marks bookmark. But yeah, I'm trying to stay consistent with my editing marks, because we'll want him to know those, when he's writing more compositions on his own. So I noticed that his work was getting faster and faster. I really noticed it in the last month. Him just getting faster and faster at his work. His reading lessons were getting more involved a little bit. Like I even said, look for figurative language and discuss. just because like if I noticed that there was figurative language, this is something that we have talked about a little bit here and there. Like just as I notice it, I've been, especially easy things like personification or alliteration, similes, metaphors, like the ones that kind of stand out, that are easier to see. And then, yeah, he's filling in his affixes. I think he was just copying off his cards. And copy all your reading words and highlight affix words. And then down here, so to illustrate his copied sentence. Yeah, you're supposed to copy a sentence, right? And write reading words with it. Yeah, so this was a sentence he chose to copy and then illustrate from his reader that day. Oh, this was a little book report I just wrote in for him. I read, and then blank by blank. This was a blank book, published in blank. The story is set in the blank at the time of its writing. The main character is blank. I learned that blank. Also, I guess he couldn't think of something else he learned. The most interesting fact I learned from this story is that blank, I blank recommend this book. And he drew Woody Woodpecker. He's about to finish a book. I'll probably do this again for his most recent book he's on. Yeah, when he read The Adventures of Danny Meadow Mouse, his first day, he read chapters 1 through 6, which was lessons 106 through 111. And we wanted to talk about who the characters, the setting, and the action that happened. And then we found pictures online that go along with those for him. I really want him to be able to look back at this and to spark memories of stories and that he's read and things he's done and learned. Okay, here's where I started making a right and wrong pile, like record keeping, to remind him to review his affix flashcards. And we're also starting to add roots to it as well. I do always have him, when he does his grammar work or anything like this, skip a line, so that if there's mistakes or things I can write, underneath, it makes it easier to give feedback. Oh, this was for an easy peasy reader, right? I just kind of made my own version of her assignment in there. I just listed out what homophones, synonyms, and antonyms are, gave them a color code. We copied out her stuff, and then he went back and coded it to match with what type of word it was. So we're getting into summer, almost summerish times. This is back in May. So what I'm seeing, I'm pretty much happy with the way that we're studying. I'd like to just continue studying our vocabulary words and specifically looking at prefixes and suffixes and root words. I'm personally less proficient at knowing what root words are exactly. But I do have there are some kind of simple lists out there that you can find. I was looking at I bought this morphology wall card set. I don't believe it. It came without the cards. I'm so annoyed. But it has, we're supposed to have all these little cards with it that we could, make words with. It just would have been, easy to be able to move them around, but it does have, and there's other things I know I have other lists somewhere, but I've been wondering if I shouldn't just start teaching him just these more common prefixes and suffixes and bases, and roots. I have both. Who really cares about base words as much, but a couple of roots, something like that, so that I don't have to be looking and wondering if I'm missing them in the vocab words, but then just have him look in the vocab words just to see if they're there. But the reason I was originally, you study these morphemes is so that you do understand the vocabulary words better. Yeah, he's actually got, he's got a good amount memorized. I think today when we did his little flashcard review, I did it with them, and he got 20 out of 25 that he has the meanings memorized. And we just keep adding them on. I think I only have 6 spaces, those little affix, phonics or affix squares, whatever you're working on. And sometimes I was just stopping. I was just having him still review the flashcard, review them all, but I was just having him fill in just the new ones, But every once in a while I would stop if there wasn't any new ones and just have him do his right pile, wrong pile flashcards, and then whatever ones he got wrong, however many of the first 6, we would just work on those all week again. Yeah, sometimes I just take copies of the worksheets from Right Start and cut them smaller, and we just tape them straight in here so I can keep everything together. We started getting to there was a lot of days I feel more recently where I started being we just did the oral answers. I just asked him, he'd do his reading, and I would just ask him the questions, and he would just orally answer me, but he had to speak in a complete sentence. He couldn't just give a partial sentence, an incomplete sentence as an answer. This one came up. This was the there or their, place or possessive lesson, which he's seen it now. He's still definitely not mastered it, I noticed, because it's still coming up. He still writes it. He'll use the wrong one in his writing, but yeah, sometimes if I'm short on time, the thing I'm going to cut is the follow-up reading questions. It's the last thing I usually have him do in the day. Yeah, it's one of those things that if we don't get to it, it's not a big deal. If he does his reading, that's the most important part. If we don't get this done every single day, I'm not worried about it. We do it often enough that he's getting a lot of reading comprehension, practice and check-ins with me. Yeah, oral question. He misspelled question. He's trying. You see, he's question, shun. But we skipped that day. Looks like we skipped that day too. Oral answers. This is funny. This day he interpreted my describe characters and draw. He was he orally described them to me, but he did them all in Minecraft style. So this lesson 59 for Right Start, we did this, I swear, for a week. We did the same lesson over and over. It was the review lesson, and there was 2 versions of the worksheet, of the review worksheet, and we just kept going back and forth between the 2 until he could really do it all on his own. This one, oh, you're supposed to write a reading word in a new sentence. I think I was just showing him, I think I just wrote this in this time because I think we were just short on time. And so I was like, here, I'm just going to write them with, like, we just did it together because I can write faster and neater. But I wanted him to hear it in a new sentence and for us to discuss the meaning. Also, by recording his reading, well, it looks like he forgot to write his lesson number and pages this day, but we've got to discuss a lot of titles and how you write titles. So that's a little bit of grammar for us. Oh, this day, I actually had him get on IXL and take an assessment. I was just wondering, he's been doing great start math. He's did level B and he's like halfway through level C. And it pretty much put him on the IXL diagnostic at like a high 3rd grade level, which is matching up with what his math book is. So I was like, that was just interesting. Skipped that this day. Here I was getting into with his words. I'm trying to draw attention to the word disagree. Dis means not. That's the part from the meaning. And then it means to not agree, not. So I'm trying to see, I'm trying just to make that connection. We did dis plus agree. We actually went on this day and went on my etymology app and like looked up 2 words and just talked about a little bit how words come together. And we looked at the family tree on the app and how, this came to English from, Middle English, from French, and then how the French brought in the Latin prefix was already present in the French word. And of course, we've talked a lot about the Romans and their conquering and their spreading of their language and everything. But that, yeah. Oh, and then we did these 2 together and he did these ones all by himself. So he said he liked using that app. That was like fun for him. Maybe it's just the novelty, and plus they like anything on a screen, don't they? Oh, and this was actually today's homework. Yeah, this was today. And today, actually, this week, we had a weird week. We only went to school for about half the week because his brother went to camp and we were just busy and stuff. So we actually didn't do a new McGuffey lesson. And I just had he's just been reviewing his affixes and trying to work on the ones that so he's down to only missing 5. So these were the last 5 that he was focusing on today. A lot of it is just memorization, like just copying these things over and over, reading them over and over, drilling them over and over, seeing them in words over and over to just get him to have these little parts memorized. And that brought us to today, 6/7/24. I want to keep some things and plan our next steps in here. Let's write it in to have a little game plan. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.